the last minute, quite desperately, Shadow Treasurer Bowen and the Shadow Minister for Financial Services, Mr. Ripoll, who I have a very high regard for, but they wrote me a letter at the last minute. Oh, by the way, maybe we can do a deal. They were complaining about the deal we did with the Palmer United Party and the Australian Motoring Enthusiast Party and various other senators on the crossbench. But like, guess what? The Labor Party actually wanted to do a deal too. And in that deal they said, yeah, we agree that your changes to grandfathering arrangements are sensible. And we think that if we could agree to do those changes only, then we could get to an understanding. Well, I didn't hear Senator Dastyari or Senator Ludwig today acknowledge that Labor stuffed up when it came to the grandfathering arrangements. I didn't hear Senator Ludwig or Senator Dastyari explain to the chamber today that there were issues in terms of the impact of some of their ill-thought-out changes, on the impact of those changes on stockbrokers or the like, that we tidied up in those regulations. We are looking after the public interest, Senator Ludwig. We are not doing anybody's bidding other than looking after the public interest. And what we did, of course, over an extended period of time was assess all of the facts, be part of all of the Senate committees, all of the parliamentary joint committee inquiries and so on over the last parliament, and we've also, of course, monitored very closely all of the discussions in more recent inquiries, and we've made judgments in the public interest. Now, some people have made observations in relation to the notice of disallowance that was given by the Regulations and Ordinances Committee last week. Well, I used to be a member of the Regulations and Ordinances Committee, and I know that we used to give these notices all the time. It is part of Senate housekeeping. When the Regulations and Ordinances Committee wants to give itself some more space to have a longer look at something, that is what they do. They give a notice just before the expiry of the 15 sitting day period, asking some more questions of the government, which of course the government will respond to, and we believe that we have all of the answers that are required to satisfy the Regulations and Ordinances Committee. And indeed, to the extent that there are any remaining concerns, they will actually be addressed on an ongoing basis as soon as the Senate has dealt with the legislation. And may I just say again, the legislation to implement the commitments we made in the lead-up to the last election has now been considered by two Senate Economics Committee inquiries, one which reported on the 16th of June and one which recommended late in September. Both of those committee inquiries, both of these inquiries by the Senate Economics Committee recommended passage of the legislation implementing our improvements to the future of financial advice laws. And now let me just also. So here we've got. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Senator Ludwig or it might have been Senator Dastyari. One of them said that we were making draconian changes. Well, let me just remind people. So we are removing the requirement to keep re-signing contracts because we happen to believe fundamentally that every Australian is entitled to decide whether he or she wants to enter into a short-term, a long-term or an ongoing contract. Like, people across Australia are big and strong enough to make their own judgments as to whether they want to enter into a one-year contract, a two-year contract, a five-year contract or an ongoing contract. And people across Australia having access to transparent information will be able to make judgments on whether or not they perceive that they're receiving value from a particular service provider or not. That is fundamentally what I believe. And you know what? And by making sure that we don't have to have this additional compliance burden which makes us the world champions in red tape, we are actually taking cost pressures out of the system, which will leave people saving for their retirement with more money in their own pocket, more money in their nest egg. May I just say to the chamber, this disallowance motion ought to be defeated because it is not in the public interest for the excessive changes that were pursued by the previous government in excess of the recommendations of the Ripoll inquiry to remain. The changes that the government made were sensible and they are indeed in the public interest, and I do commend them to the chamber.